There's a researcher called James Fadiman who has been researching this for a long time as well. Look, I think there's definitely something to it. I remember reading an interesting article that was saying that we have these kind of mapped byways in our brain. It's called the default mode network. The default mode network is kind of like the autobiographical mind, the voice in your head that lets you know that you exist, otherwise known as the ego, that sense of bounded autonomy that we have, and that we need to function in the world to a certain extent, you know, so we don't get run over by a car when we cross the street. It's like body integrity, sense of self, agency, all important. But when the default mode network becomes overactive, when it feels under threat, it becomes like a terrible tyrant, as David Foster Wallace used to say. And both anxiety and depression are associated with heightened overactivity of the default mode network. So literally, it's overactive, you know? And so people need to shut that down to find relief from themselves. What psychedelics do, what all altered states of consciousness do, is shut down default mode network activity. When you shut down default mode network activity, just like when you're in a flow state as an athlete, or if you're a rider in the zone, or when you're doing one of these shows and time flies by because you're so tapped in, what's happening is the experience is like the doer and the seer merge. Your sense of self disappears, and you're completely immersed in the now. Your sense of time disappears. All these things change. That's because the default mode network is essentially shut down. And during these moments, we find relief from our monkey mind, and now all of a sudden, pattern recognition goes up, creativity goes up, empathy goes up, risk-taking goes up, and we're also open to new experience. We're more open than we usually are. Our defense mechanisms fall away because the protective ego dissolves, right? This is like psychotherapy, because these mapped byways in our minds is like the freeway that we always take to work, the normal way that our brain functions. The default mode network is like the highway, the 5-lane highway. You shut down the 5-lane highway, what happens? The cars have to take all these alternate routes to get home. And that alternate route might be amazing, it might be really boring, but it'll be new and it'll be different. So that's what seems to happen to brain activity. They did fMRI scans of people in these altered states of consciousness, and brain activity is totally different when the default mode network gets shut down. Different parts of the brain talk to each other. So look, we might decide in the end that this is something you only want to do once in your life or once a year, or maybe not at all for some people. But the point is, there needs to be more research. You know, like to have hurdles, to have restrictions that get in the way of chasing what could be, in the words of Stanislav Grof, potentially a telescope for psychiatry. You know, what the telescope did for astronomy, these tools could do for psychiatry. I think it's a responsibility for all of us. And also, you know, you design better minds, and then these minds can then make better decisions in the world and make better tools in the world to serve those minds. You know, another company that's doing great work in this space, and I did a video for them, full disclosure, because I really support their work, is Neurohacker Collective. And these guys are interested in cognitive upgrades, building better systems for better minds. So first you upgrade cognition, and then you start upgrading the systems within which cognition is nested. So society, identity, culture, all these things, and you sort of move towards a space of like upgrading humanity. You know, neurohacking is the name of this field, and it's really it's exciting stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening, but
is it
room for it's good to be optimistic, I think.